The transport ship shook as it entered. The atmosphere of Karvesh Prime, Park. Jiho sat in chains, his small frame barely filling the restraint harness. Around him, massive alien prisoners growled and hissed, a reptilian creature with 4 arms laughed at him, showing rows of sharp teeth. Look at the tiny human, the creature said in broken galactic standard. He will die on the first day. Jiho said nothing. He had learned long ago that silence was safer than words. His brother Daeon had taught him that before the war took him away. Dae was everything. Jiho was not. Tall, strong, confident, a marine who could fight anyone and win. Jiho was just an engineer who got caught helping the wrong people. The ship landed with a heavy thud. Guards in black armor pulled the prisoners out one by one. When they reached Jiho, one guard actually laughed. Did they send us a child by mistake? The guard asked his partner. Says here he's 28, the other guard replied, checking his data pad. Smuggling charges. 5 years. 5 years in the worst prison in the galaxy. Jiho felt his stomach turn, but he kept his face calm. Dehan's voice echoed in his mind, show fear, and they'll eat you alive. Processing center was a huge gray building. Prisoners lined up to receive their identification chips and cell assignments. Jiho stood behind a towering creature covered in thick fur. The creature turned and looked down at him. You smell like prey, it growled. Jiho met its eyes but said nothing. The creature snorted and turned away. A small victory. After processing, the guards pushed them into the main yard. Jiho had seen videos of Karvesh Prime, but nothing prepared him for the real thing. The prison stretched for miles, a city of concrete and steel under a red sky. Thousands of prisoners moved through the yard, some in groups, some alone, all dangerous. Fresh meat, someone shouted. Laughter followed. Jiho walked slowly, keeping his eyes moving. He noticed the groups, the territories, the patterns. In the northeast corner, reptilian warriors with scars and battle armor. In the south, insect creatures that move together like a swarm. And everywhere, fights, prisoners testing each other, establishing dominance. A human walked past the first Jiho had seen. The man was bigger than Jiho, with prison tattoos covering his arms. He glanced at Jiho and shook his head as if sorry for what would happen. Next, Jiho found his cell block, a long corridor of tiny rooms carved into stone. His cell was barely 6 ft across. A metal bed, a toilet, nothing else. He sat on the bed and took a deep breath. First day just survived the first day. Dinner was served in a massive hall that held thousands. Jiho got in line with his tray, feeling eyes on him from every direction. The food looked like gray paste, but he was hungry enough not to care. He found an empty spot at the end of a table and sat down. He had taken exactly 2 bites when they came. 3 Kragathi warriors, each over 7 ft tall, with blue skin and rigged skulls. They surrounded his table. The leader, with a scar across his face, grabbed Jiho and LT Uncan GT's tray and dumped it on the floor. This is our table, little human, the leader said. You pay tax to sit here. I don't have anything, G said quietly. Then you pay with blood, another Kreathi said. The third one cracked his knuckles, a sound like breaking wood. The entire hall had gone quiet. Everyone was watching. G looked at the 3 warriors and knew he could not fight them. Even one would destroy him in seconds. His mind raced, looking for options. Above the Kragathi leader's head, Jiho noticed something. A cargo crane carrying supply containers. The crane ran on old magnetic rails, the kind that needed constant maintenance. He had worked on similar systems 100 times. Jiho stood up slowly, holding his hands where they could see. You're right, he said. I should have asked permission. The Kragathi leader smiled, thinking he had one. Smart human. Now Jiho kicked the table. Hard, it slammed into the leader's legs. At the same moment, Jiho grabbed his metal tray and threw it straight up at the crane's control panel. The tray hit the emergency stop button with a loud clang. The magnetic rails shut off. Instantly, the cargo container, weighing several tons, dropped straight down. Kragathi barely had time to look up before it crashed on top of them with a sound like thunder. Alarms blared. Dust filled the air. Guards came running. Jiho was already walking away, his heart pounding. He didn't look back. He heard screaming and shouting behind him, but he kept moving. By the time the guards sorted everything out, Jiho was back in his cell block, blending in with other prisoners. That night, lying on his metal bed, Jiho allowed himself a small smile. The Kragathi would survive. The container had hit them, but not crushed them completely. They would think twice before bothering him again. In the shadows of the upper levels, someone else was smiling too. Warlord Thrau stood at his window, looking down at the prison yard. He had watched the entire incident. His yellow eyes gleamed in the darkness. Bring me information about that human, he told his assistant, the small one who made the cargo fall. Yes, Warlord, the assistant replied. His name is Park J. Park Jiho, Thrau's repeated slowly. Clever. Very clever. The warlord turned away from the window. In 30 years of prison, he had seen thousands of warriors, strong fighters, brutal killers, fearless soldiers, but cleverness, true cleverness, was rare. The Terran had not won through strength. He had won by thinking faster than his enemies. Thrikos respected that. Far away on Earth, in a military intelligence office, Lai Mji watched the same incident on her monitors. She had been assigned to watch Park Jiho to make sure his cover held. The mission had failed, and now he was trapped in the worst place imaginable. But watching him drop that container on 3 warriors twice his size, she found herself thinking the same thing. Was thinking maybe Park J would survive. After all, 2 weeks passed and Park Jiho was still alive. This surprised everyone, including some of the guards. The prison had a betting pool about new arrivals, and most had given Jiho 3 days at most, but the small human kept finding ways to survive. He had learned the prison's true currency was not strength, it was usefulness. After the cargo incident, word spread that Jiho could fix things: broken equipment, malfunctioning doors, communication devices that had stopped working years ago. Jiho could make them work again. A gang leader named Vortag came to him first. The aliens' territory had lost power to half their cells, and his warriors were fighting among themselves over the working spaces. Jiho studied the problem for an hour, found a burn-it-out relay hidden in the walls, and had it working by evening. Vortag gave him protection for a week and 3 meal tokens. Then came others: a water recycler for the insectoid hive, a heating system for the cold blood reptiles. Each repair bought Jiho safety, food, or information. He never asked for much, just enough to survive another day. in the maintenance sector deep in the prison's lower levels. Geo found something valuable: space. The guards rarely came down here, and most prisoners avoided it because there was nothing to fight over. Geo claimed a small workshop near the main power junction. He cleaned it, organized the tools, and made it his base. One morning, another human appeared at his workshop door. The man was older than Geo, maybe 40, with burn scars on his arms and a cautious way of moving that suggested military training. "Your Park J." "I am," Jay replied, not looking up from the circuit board he was repairing. "I'm Choi Soo-ho, used to do demolitions for the Korean military, got caught selling explosives to the wrong buyer." Soo-ho stepped inside, looking around. "Heard you're making deals, building something." "Just trying to stay alive," Jiho said. "Smart," Soo-ho said. "Mind if I stay? Can help, I know these systems too." "Military training covers a lot." Jay finally looked up. He studied Soo-ho and LT Unk and GT's face, looking for lies or hidden intentions. He saw only tiredness and hope. "You can stay," G said, "but we follow rules. No violence in this space, no stealing from each other. We help anyone who pays fairly, no matter what species." Suo nodded. "Fair enough." They worked together for several days before Soo-ho asked the question Jiho had been waiting for. "Why aren't you scared?" Soo-ho said. "You're smaller than most humans here, and humans are already the smallest species in this place. Everyone should be trying to kill you." Jiho put down his tools. "My brother Dahyun was a Marine, big guy, strong, fearless. When we were kids he got in fights all the time, won most of them too." He paused, remembering one day some older kids jumped him 5 against 1. "I thought they'd kill him, but Dahyun didn't try to fight them all at once. He positioned himself near a fence, made them come at him one at a time, grabbed the first kid and used him as a shield, tripped the second into the third. By the time it was over they ran away and Dean barely got hit." "He taught you that?" Soo-ho asked. "He taught me that humans don't win by being strongest. We win by being smartest. We use everything around us. We think ahead." Jiho returned to his work. "That's the Terran way." Their sanctuary grew. Female prisoner named Kim Yuna started visiting. She worked in the medical section and had access to supplies. She traded medicine for repairs, and soon she was sending other prisoners to them. Their neutral zone became known throughout the prison, a place where deals could be made safely, but success brought attention. Gorthan was the fight master, a 4-armed beast from a heavy gravity world. He ran the gladiator fights that the warden allowed for entertainment. Prisoners fought for extra rations, better cells, and glory. Gorthan took a cut of all bets and had grown rich by prison standards. He came to the workshop with 6 guards behind him. "You are Park J," Goran said in a voice like grinding stones. "I am Jiho," said, standing slowly. Soo-ho moved to his side. "You will fight in my arena tomorrow. The crowd wants to see the clever human bleed." "I'm not a fighter," J said. "You made 3 Cathy warriors look like fools. That makes you a fighter." Goran smiled, showing teeth like broken glass. "If you refuse, I will break every bone in your friend's body. Then I will break yours. Then you will fight anyway, but with broken bones." Sewell tensed, ready to move, but Joe touched his arm. "I'll fight," Gio said quietly. Goran laughed and left. The moment he was gone, Zuo grabbed Gio and LT Unk and GT. Shoulder. You can't fight that thing, it'll kill. You in seconds probably, Joe agreed. He walked to his workbench and pulled out a data pad, so I need to make sure I don't fight him. That night G studied every recording he could find of arena fights. He watched how Goran moved, where he stood, how he attacked. But more importantly, he watched the arena itself, the structure, the systems, the old equipment that had been installed decades ago and barely maintained. The next day, hundreds of prisoners gathered around the fighting pit. Guards stood at the edges, weapons ready in case of riots. Gorthan entered to cheers and roars. Then Gio walked in, looking even smaller than usual in that huge space. The crowd laughed. Someone threw food at him. Gio ignored it all. His eyes moved across the arena, checking the details he had memorized. The light rig overhead, held by old cables, the floor panels, some loose from years of impacts, the support columns cracked and repaired poorly. Ready to die, human? Goran asked. Ready. Gio said. The fight began. Goran charged immediately, all four arms reaching. Gio ran not away but toward the nearest support column. Goran followed exactly as Gio had hoped. At the last second, Gio slid between the column and the wall, a gap too small for Goran's bulk. Goran's momentum carried him forward. He hit the column with tremendous force. The column cracked. Gio was already moving, running toward the center of the arena. He grabbed a loose floor panel and pulled. The panel came up, revealing old wiring. Gorthan roared and charged again. Gio waited until the last possible moment, then jumped aside. Goran's foot came down on the exposed wiring. Sparks flew. The fight master jerked and stumbled. The crowd was no longer laughing. Gio kept moving, kept thinking. He led Goran on a chase through the arena, making the larger fighter hit weak points, step on loose panels, crash into old equipment. Every impact weakened the structure more. The light rig swayed overhead. Finally, G ran directly under the lights. Goran followed, screaming in rage. Gio kicked a power junction he had spotted earlier. The lights went out for exactly 3 seconds as backup power engaged. In that darkness, Gio rolled away. When the lights came back on, Goran was standing directly under the rig, the cables already weakened by decades of stress. And Goran's earlier impacts finally snapped. The entire light assembly came crashing down. Goran looked up too late. Metal and glass buried him. Silence filled the arena, then the floor beneath. Goran gave way. The fight master fell into the maintenance pit below. With a final echoing crash, Gio stood alone, the center, breathing hard, completely untouched. The crowd erupted. Some cheered, some shouted in anger. But in the upper seats, Warlord Thrauz stood slowly, his yellow eyes fixed on the small human who had just defeated the prison's champion without throwing a single punch. Bring him to me, Thrauz commanded. The eastern territory of Karvish Prime belonged to Warlord Thrauz. His domain was different from the rest of the prison. The walls were clean. The rules were clear. Violence was allowed, but only with purpose. Random cruelty was punished swiftly. 2 guards escorted Park Gio through the territory's entrance. Prisoners watched him pass, their eyes filled with curiosity and respect. The small human who had beaten Gorthan was now something of a legend. Some whispered that he had magic, others said he was a ghost who could not be touched. Jiho knew the truth was simpler and more dangerous. He had gotten lucky and luck ran out. Guards brought him to a large hall, carved from the prison's original rock. Inside, Warlord Thrauz sat on a throne, made from scrap metal and salvaged ship parts. He was massive, nearly 9 ft tall, with scales that shimmered between green and gold. His eyes were the yellow of old Earth's sun, and they saw everything. Around him stood his advisors and warriors. Jiho recognized some species, but others were new to him. All of them looked capable of tearing him apart. Park, Jiho Thrauz said. His voice was deep and measured. The human who fights without fighting. Warlord, Jiho said, bowing his head slightly. Respect cost nothing. Do you know why I rule this territory? Thrauz asked. Because you're the strongest, Jiho replied. Wrong. Thrauz leaned forward. I rule because I understand the difference between strength and power. Strength is the body, power is the mind. You have shown power. One of the advisors, a human man in his 50s, stepped forward. My name is Ba Sunman, he said in Korean, surprising Jiho. I translate and advise the warlord. He wants to know if you are as clever as you appear or if you simply got lucky. Luck is just preparation meeting opportunity, Jiho answered, also in Korean. My brother taught me that. Sunman translated. Thrauz nodded slowly. Your brother was wise. Is he here? He's dead, Jiho said. Died in the border wars. Then you carry his wisdom forward. That is honorable. Thrauz gestured to a seat near his throne. Sit, eat, we will talk. Over the next hour, servants brought food, real food, not the gray paste from the common hall. Jiho ate slowly while Thrauz asked questions. Where was Jiho from? What did he do before prison? What were his skills? Jiho answered truthfully, leaving out only the parts about the failed intelligence mission. As far as anyone knew, he was just a smuggler who got caught. I have a problem, Thrauz finally said. 2 of my vassal groups are fighting over territory in the southern corridor. The SKRL want it because it's near the water recyclers. The Torks want it because it has the best ventilation. They have been killing each other for 3 weeks. I could choose one side and crush the other, but then I lose warriors. What would you do? Ajay thought about it. This was a test, obviously, but what kind? He looked at Thrauz and saw a genuine curiosity in those yellow eyes. I would give them both something better. Jiho said, the SCR need water. Fix the recycler in their current territory. It probably doesn't work well, which is why they want to move. The Toraks need ventilation. Aru air ducts to their area. It's not hard, just time-consuming. Give them what they actually need, and the corridor becomes worthless to fight over. Thrako stared at him for a long moment, then he laughed, a sound like thunder rolling across mountains. You see the root, not the branches. Good. He stood. You will help me solve this. Tomorrow we go to inspect both territories. Sunung Min walked Jiho back to his workshop later. The warlord likes you, he said quietly. That's good, but be careful. He has killed people he liked when they disappointed him. He values honor above all else. What's his story? Jiho asked. How does someone like him end up in prison? Sunman looked around to make sure no one was listening. He was a war hero on his planet, led armies, won battles, earned glory, then his own government betrayed him. They feared his popularity, so they framed him for war crimes and sent him Here, that was 20 years ago. He could escape, Jiho said. Someone with his resources, his followers, where would he go? His people want him dead. The galaxy thinks he's a criminal. This prison is his kingdom now, the only one he has left. Sunmin paused at the workshop door. He's looking for something, Jiho. Purpose, maybe, or redemption. I think he sees something in you that reminds him of who he used to be. Over the next weeks, Jiho spent half his time in Threos's territory. He solved the SKRL and Torex problem exactly as he had suggested. Both groups received what they needed, and the fighting stopped. Threos began bringing him other problems: supply chain issues, power distribution, conflicts that seemed impossible to resolve. Jiho solved them all, not with violence but with engineering and logic. He found solutions that let everyone save face, that turned enemies into partners, that made the impossible happen through clever thinking. Threos watched and learned. They ate meals together. The Warlord told stories of his home world, of battles fought with honor, of a culture that valued wisdom as much as strength. Jiho listened and understood. Threos was not just a warrior, he was a leader who had lost everything and was trying to build something meaningful from the ruins. One evening, Threos asked, "What did your brother teach you about honor?" Ji thought carefully before answering. He said, "Honor is not about being the strongest or the toughest. It's about keeping your word, protecting people weaker than you, doing the right thing, even when it costs you." He paused. He lived by that code. It got him killed, but he died as he lived, standing between danger and the people he protected. A warrior's death, Threos said with approval. He would be proud of you. "I'm not a warrior," Jiho said. "You are exactly a warrior. You just fight differently. In my culture there is a saying, the blade that cuts without metal is the sharpest blade. Your mind is your weapon. It is formidable." They drank together in comfortable silence. For the first time since arriving at Karvish Prime, Jiho felt something like safety, maybe even friendship. That feeling lasted exactly 4 more days. The alarm came at midnight, a prison-wide alert. Riots in the western sectors, fire in the medical wing, guards being overwhelmed. The entire prison was descending into chaos. Threos stood at his window, watching the fires spread. His warriors gathered ready for orders. Everyone knew this was the moment. If Threos moved his forces west, he could seize control of half the prison. The warden's authority would collapse. Threos would become the true ruler of Karvish Prime. Warlord, one of his captains, said, "We should attack now while the warden's forces are scattered." Threos looked at Jiho. "What do you think, human?" Ji moved to the window. Below he could see prisoners running, fighting, dying. Guard towers fired into crowds. Smoke rose in thick columns. It was madness, an opportunity mixed together. "I think," Jiho said slowly, "that this is not a normal riot. Someone planned this. Someone wants you to attack so they can blame everything on you. You win the prison but lose any chance of ever leaving it." Threos's eyes narrowed. "Go on, help stop the riot instead. Save lives. Show the warden and the council that you're not the monster they think you are. It might not free you, but it gives you leverage. Power isn't just about taking things. Sometimes it's about showing restraint when everyone expects violence." The room went silent. Every warrior stared at Jiho like he had suggested surrender, but Throw smiled. The blade that cuts without metal, he said. Very well, we fight the riot, not the warden. He turned to his forces. All warriors with me, we restore order. They moved out into the chaos. Together, the warlord and his followers, with a small human engineer running beside them, heading toward the fire. Instead of away from it, in his office, Governor Narith watched them on monitors and cursed. His carefully planned trap was failing. The human had ruined everything again. The medical wing was burning. Smoke poured through corridors as prisoners and guards fought in the chaos. Kim Yuna was trapped inside with dozens of patients who could not move on their own. She sent out emergency signals, but no help came. The guards had abandoned the sector. Park Ji reached the medical wing first, running ahead of Thrakus' main force. He found the security doors sealed, the control panel damaged by fire. Inside he could hear screaming. Stand back, Kai Su-ho said, arriving with tools and explosives. Together, they worked on the door while fire raged around them. Zu-ho set a small charge on the hinges. The explosion blew the door open and smoke billowed out. Ji-ho ran inside, covering his face with wet cloth. The wing was an inferno. Yuna was trying to move patient on a hovering stretcher, but the power systems had failed. The stretcher was dead weight. We need to evacuate, Ji-ho shouted over the roar of flames. How many patients? 15 who can't walk. Yuna coughed. Maybe 3 minutes before the roof collapses. 3 minutes. 15 patients. No power, no time. Jay's mind raced through possibilities. The old ventilation system, if he could reverse the airflow, push the fire back toward the entrance, but that would take 5 minutes to reroute, and they had 3. The emergency exits were blocked by debris. The main corridor was their only way out, and it was full of fire. Throws arrived with his warriors. The warlord took in the situation instantly. We carry them out. Move, clears throat. His warriors rushed forward, lifting patients, forming a chain, but the corridor was too hot. 2 warriors tried to run through and came back with severe burns. At this rate, they would all die. Trying the fire suppression system, Ji-ho said suddenly. It's still connected to the main power grid. If I can trigger it, the control room is on the other side of the fire. Yuna said, you'd never make it. Then I go around. Ji-ho was already moving through the maintenance tunnels. 5 minutes. You have 3, said Jae-ran. The maintenance tunnels were narrow and dark, barely wide enough for his small frame. He crawled through spaces that would have trapped larger beings, squeezing past pipes and wiring. His hands bled on the sharp metal edges, but he did not slow down. 2 minutes gone, he reached a junction where 3 tunnels met. Left went to the control room, right went to the power junction. Straight ahead led to safety. He needed water pressure to fight the fire. Control room could activate the sprinklers, but without full power the pressure would be too weak. He needed the power junction running at maximum output. That meant rewiring live electrical systems with his bare hands. 1 minute left. Ji-ho went right toward the power junction. His brother's voice echoed in his memory. Sometimes the smart choice and the right choice are different. Real warriors know which one to make. The junction was a maze of exposed wires and circuit breakers. Ji-ho pulled off his shirt, wrapped his hands, and started working. Sparks flew as he rerouted power. The entire Prison's electrical grid was designed to fail safely. You could not just push everything to maximum without safeties. But Jiho knew systems. He knew what could be pushed and what would break. He pushed everything. Warning lights flashed red as he disabled safety after safety. The junction began to smoke from the overload. Somewhere alarms were screaming about power grid failure. Jiho ignored them all, and through the final breaker, every light in the prison surged bright. Then the fire suppression system activated at full pressure. Water exploded from every sprinkler, every emergency nozzle, every fire control point in the medical wing. The water pressure was so strong it knocked prisoners off their feet. The fire died in seconds, drowned under tons of water. Jiho slumped against the junction wall, his hands burned and shaking. He had done it. They were safe. Then the junction exploded. The overload he had created finally reached its limit. Electrical fire erupted from every panel. Jiho tried to run, but the explosion threw him backward. He hit the wall hard and fell into darkness. He woke up to voices shouting his name. Someone was pulling him through the tunnel. Pain was everywhere. His back, his hands, his legs. He tried to speak, but only coughed up water and smoke. Daylight, fresh air, hands laying him on the ground. Thrau's face appeared above him, and the Warlord looked angrier than Jiho had ever seen him. Foolish human. Thraus growled, you could have died. Did everyone get out? Jiho managed to ask. Everyone lives because of you, Yuna said, kneeling beside him. Her face was covered in soot, but her hands were steady as she checked his injuries. You bought us the time we needed, then worth it, Jiho whispered and passed out again. He woke 3 times over the next days. Each time Thraus was there, sitting beside the medical bed like a statue. Other prisoners came too, humans and aliens both. They left food, medicine, even small gifts. Chisuho told him later that over 200 lives had been saved that night, directly or indirectly. Governor Nareth had planned the riot to frame Thraus and justify harsh new restrictions. Instead, the Warlord had become a hero. Prisoners spoke of him leading rescue efforts, of his warriors pulling guards from the fire alongside inmates. The governor's plan had backfired completely, but Nareth was not finished. On the 4th day, as Jiho was finally recovering, a new prisoner arrived. Human named Han Jiwoo. Jiu was tall and moved with military precision. He found Jiho in the medical wing and spoke quietly in Korean. I'm with Terran Special Forces, Jiu said. I'm here to get you out. Your cover mission failed. But Earth hasn't forgotten you. We have an extraction plan. Jiho stared at him. How did you get in? Volunteered for prisoner transfer. Took 3 months to arrange. Jiu glanced around to make sure no one was listening. We have 2 weeks. There's a supply ship that can be diverted, but you need to be ready to move, and we need to be careful. The governor has eyes everywhere. What about the others? Jiho asked. Suho, Yuna. The humans in my territory. The mission is you only. Orders from the top. Jiho looked at Jiu and LT, Unk and GT's earnest face and felt tired. I need to think about it. Jiu, think fast. The window closes in 14 days. That night Jiho told Thraus about the extraction offer. The Warlord listened without interrupting. You should go, Thraus said finally. You do not belong in this place. What about you? Jay asked. What about everyone? who depends on the systems we've built. I have lived in cages for 20 years. I will survive, but you could be free. Jiho shook his head. Freedom without honor is just another kind of prison. That's what my brother would say. Your brother was a wise man. Before Jiho could respond, the lights went out. Emergency alarms blared in the sudden darkness. Jiho heard weapons being drawn, orders being shouted in languages he did not know. It's an attack, Theo said. Standing, the governor and LT Unk and GT's final move, he's sending his elite guards to kill us both. Through the window, G saw shapes moving in the darkness. Dozens of armed soldiers in heavy armor, heading straight for their location. This was not a riot, this was an execution. We're trapped, Thrako said calmly. They have sealed all exits. They will tell the council we died in another prisoner riot, and no one will question it. Jay's mind raced. They had minutes, maybe less. The soldiers were trained killers with advanced weapons, Throuses. Warriors were brave but outgunned. A direct fight would be suicide unless they changed the battlefield. I have an idea, Jiho said, but you're going to hate it. Tell me quickly, Jiho told him. Throuse listened and smiled, showing all his teeth. You are right, I hate it, but I respect it. Let us begin. They had 3 minutes to prepare for the fight that would decide everything. Park Jay's plan was simple and terrible. The Eastern Territory had one advantage. Jiho had been maintaining its systems for weeks. He knew every wire, every pipe, every structural weakness, and he knew how to turn a fortress into a trap. We're not fighting them, Jiho explained as he and Cho worked frantically on the control panels. We're making them fight the building. The governor's elite soldiers advanced in formation, their arm gleaming in the emergency lights. There were 40 of them, equipped with plasma rifles and shock batons. Against Thrakus 20 warriors, the outcome was certain until the floor began to shake. Jiho had rerouted all power to the gravity generators beneath the Eastern Territory. With a few commands, he could make sections of floor field 10 times heavier, or nearly weightless. The soldiers stumbled, their formations breaking as gravity fluctuated wildly beneath them. Now Throuse commanded. His warriors attacked not in a straight fight, but from above and below. They used the chaos Jiho created, striking fast and vanishing through passages only they knew, but the soldiers adapted quickly. Their commander, a cold-eyed woman named Captain Rivik, organized her troops into defensive squares. They would advance slowly, maintaining cohesion. Eventually, they would reach Throuse's throne room, and no amount of tricks would save them. Then Jiho sat in his makeshift command center, a storage room filled with monitors and control panels. Hanji Wu had joined him, using his military training to coordinate defensive positions. Kim Yuna was treating wounded warriors as they fell back. Bei Sunung Min was translating orders between different alien species who spoke no common language. We're an LT Unk and GT, losing, Ju said quietly. Even with your tricks, they're too well trained. 10 more minutes and they'll break through. Jiho knew he was right. His eyes moved across the monitors, looking for something, anything. Then he saw a weakness he had noticed weeks ago but never mentioned because it was too dangerous. The entire Eastern Territory sat above the prison's main water reservoir. The reservoir was held in place by walls built 50 years ago from cheap materials. Jiho had seen the stress fractures when he was fixing the pipes. One good hit in the right place, and those walls would fail. If that happened, millions of gallons of water would flood through the lower levels. Everything in its path would be swept away, including them. There's a way, Jay said slowly, but people will die, maybe. Us. Thrauz appeared in the doorway, blood on his armor. Tell me, Ji explained. The warlord listened, his face unreadable. When Geo finished, Thrauz was quiet for a long moment. You would risk everyone here, my warriors, your friends, yourself, for a chance to stop them? Asked. I'm risking us to save us, Jiho replied. If we do nothing, we die anyway. This way we have a chance. How much time to evacuate? 2 minutes. Maybe less. Thrauz nodded once. Then we trust the clever Terran one more time. He turned to his warriors. Evacuation. All forces to the upper levels. Move. Now, the warriors scattered, grabbing wounded comrades and running for higher ground. Yuna and Sunung men went with them. Ju hesitated, looking at Jiho. You're going to trigger it manually, aren't you? Ju asked. From down here the controls are fried. Ji said. Someone has to stay and do it by hand. Then I'll stay. You evacuate. You don't know the systems well enough. It has to be me. Jiho met his fellow human's eyes. Tell Earth I tried to do the right thing. That's enough. Jiho, go. 2 minutes. Jaiwu ran. Thrikos remained standing in the doorway like a mountain. You should leave too, Jiho said. Working on the panel. I do not leave. Warriors behind. I'm not a warrior, I'm an engineer. You are my brother, Thrauz said simply, and I do not leave. Brothers behind. Before Jiho could argue, plasma fire lit up the corridor. The soldiers had breached the last defensive line. They were seconds away. Jiho pulled 3 wires loose and twisted them together. Sparks flew. The panel began smoking. In the reservoir below, explosive charges he had set during their preparation began there. Countdown 30 seconds. Now we run, Ji said. They ran together through corridors filling with soldiers. Plasma bolts sizzled past them. Jiho's burns reopened and fresh blood soaked through his bandages. Thrakos was hit twice but kept moving, his massive body shielding Jiho from the worst fire. 15 seconds. They reached a stairwell. Soldiers above and below. No way through. Thrauz grabbed Jiho and threw him upward with tremendous strength. Jiho sailed over the soldiers' heads and crashed onto the upper landing. Thrauz followed, leaping impossibly high for something so large. 5 seconds. They burst through a doorway into the upper territory. Thrakos warriors pulled them forward. Everyone was running now. Soldiers and prisoners alike, all sensing something terrible about to happen. 0. The reservoir walls exploded. Water erupted through the lower levels. Like a tsunami, the sound was deafening. Millions of gallons finding freedom all at once. The entire eastern territory shook. Corridors flooded in seconds. Soldiers who had been chasing them were swept away, their screams lost in the roar of water. The flood reached the main yard and spread out, losing power. When it finally stopped, half the prison was knee-deep in water, and the eastern Territo's lower sections were completely submerged. Jiho collapsed against a wall, unable to stand. Everything hurt. He had pushed his injured body too far. Thrauz knelt beside him, checking his wounds. You saved us, the warlord said. Again, did everyone evacuate? Jiho managed to ask. All my warriors. Most of the soldiers, too, they ran. When the water started coming, you tried to save even our enemies. Thrakus' yellow eyes were intense. That is true honor. Over the next days, chaos gave way to order. The Galactic Council sent investigators to find out what had happened. Lee MJI arrived with them, her official credentials allowing her access to the prison. She found Jiho in medical, barely conscious but alive. The mission went sideways, she told him quietly, but you did good work here. The investigators found evidence of Governor Narath's corruption, the rigged riot, the assassination attempt. Everything. He's been arrested. Warden system here is being reformed. What about Thraus? Jiho asked. His case is being reviewed. New evidence suggests his original conviction was politically motivated. He might actually get out. She paused. You too. Your sentence is being commuted. Time served plus recognition for saving lives. You're free. J. Free. The word felt strange. Jiho had been in Karvish Prime for months, but it felt like years. World outside seemed distant and unreal. I need to see Thrakus first, he said. They brought him to the Warlord's holding area. Thraus was in chains, but he smiled when Jiho entered. The human survives again, Thraus said. I should not be surprised. They're reviewing your case, Jiho told him. There's a chance. I know. But even if I go free, where do I go? My world still wants me dead. I am a warrior without a war, a leader without people. He paused. What will you do? Park J. I don't know yet, Jiho admitted. Earth is home, but after this. He shook his head. Everything's different now. Thraus stood, his chains rattling. Then I have a request. When my trial concludes, I plan to return to my home world. Not to hide, but to challenge the corruption that put me here, to restore honor to my people's government. His eyes locked with Jiho's. I need someone I trust by my side, someone clever enough to navigate politics, brave enough to stand in danger, honest enough to tell me when I am wrong. You're asking me to help you start a revolution, Jiho said. I am asking my brother to stand with me. Jiho thought of Earth, of his old life of safety and comfort. Then he thought of Dahun, of the brother who had taught him that honor mattered more than ease. An LT Unk and GT LL need to bring some people, Jiho said. Suho. Maybe Ju, if he wants Yuna, if she's willing. You have 6 months to prepare. That is how long my trial will take. Then I'll see you in 6 months. On his final day at Karvish Prime, the entire Eastern Territory gathered in what had been Thraus's throne room. Prisoners from every species, humans and aliens, standing together. Thraus stood before them all, and for once he looked uncertain. I am not good with words, he began. I am a warrior, but my people have traditions, and today I follow one of the oldest. He drew blade from his belt and cut his palm. Green blood welled up. Park J. Come forward. J. approached. Thraus handed him the blade. In my culture, Thraus said loudly so everyone could hear, we have a bond called Korech, battle brother. It is reserved for warriors who have shed blood together, who have trusted each other with their lives, who have proven their honor beyond question. He held out his bleeding palm. Will you accept this bond? Jiho understood what was being offered. Not just friendship, but family, the closest thing to blood relation in Thraus's culture. He cut his own palm without hesitation and pressed it to Thraus. Human red and alien green mixed Together I accept, Geo said. The room erupted in cheers from 100 different species. Throws pulled Jiho into an embrace that nearly crushed him. They laughed at you when you arrived, Throws said quietly. So only Jiho could hear. They saw weakness where I saw the fiercest warrior I have known. You fight with mind and heart, weapons sharper than any blade. You are my brother now and forever. 3 months later, Jiho stood on a transport ship leaving Karvesh Prime. Kaisuho sat beside him, and Hanji Wu was in the pilot's seat. Kim Yuna had chosen to stay at the prison, working to improve its medical systems from the inside. Bei Sunung Min had gone with Throws, who had been released after evidence cleared his name. Jiho and LT Unk and GTS datapad chimed. A message from Throws. Preparations are underway. My home world resists change, but we will prevail. Come when you are ready. Brother, we have much work ahead. Ji smiled and looked out the viewport at the stars. Park Jiho had been the smallest human in a galaxy of giants. Everyone had laughed at him. Everyone had thought he would die on the first day, but he had learned what his brother Dahayan always knew. Humans did not survive by being the strongest or the biggest or the most fearsome. They survived by being clever, by adapting, by finding solutions no one else could see, by refusing to break no matter how hard the universe pushed. That was the Terran way. That was what made humanity special. And now, with a warlord calling him brother and a revolution waiting to be won, Park Jiho was ready to show the galaxy what a small human could really do. He touched the scar on his palm, the mark of Korech, and thought of his brother's words one final time. Show them that being small just means they'll never see you coming. The stars stretched ahead, full of challenges and dangers and possibilities. Jiho was no longer afraid. He had survived the worst prison in the galaxy. He had earned the respect of warriors and the friendship of a warlord. He had proven that size did not matter when you had courage, intelligence, and honor. The small Terran was heading home, but not for long. Soon he would return to the stars, not as a prisoner, but as a warrior fighting for something worth believing in, and the galaxy would learn to respect him just as Karvesh Prime had.